So NRG Insights is a look into the mortgage market, specialist lending, commercial development, and where we speak to influential people in the market, which can be from broking, lending, or ancillary products into the market, i.e. recruitment. And today I've got Kallie Henson with me, even though your name actually says Marcus Nanson underneath you. We'll get that deleted. Um, I've got Kallie with me, who is a senior consultant with me in the NRG Recruitment Group, specialising in. Well, I'll let you tell your story. So, welcome, Kallie.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
You're
Um,
welcome, and you're actually only in the room next door. You know the
I
magic of
know, I can actually
the
kind of hear.
freakery of podcasts.
My story, yeah, well, I've been here almost 2 years now,
Amazing.
on the lending arm, helping you grow that side out. So short-term development finance, commercial mortgages, that's kind of my bag.
Good,
Um,
good. Tell people about what you did before. How did you get into the industry? Obviously, before you were rescued into becoming this fantastic specialist lending expert that you are now. Where were you before?
so prior to this, I did senior and exec finance recruitment. Did that for a couple of years, and much like many people who fall into financial services, I fell into recruitment. Prior to that, I did credit control.
Fun. But so you used to being told to fuck off, so really useful to get into recruitment. So talk to me about the market. How's the market for you? Obviously, you are more kind of boots on the ground than me when it comes to like the candidate stuff. You're obviously speaking to everyone across credit, underwriting, sales, etc. But what are you seeing in the market at the moment?
So it's been an interesting couple of weeks, I think.
Hmm.
The market suddenly became saturated, which resulted in a lot of people having to change tact with
Yeah.
how they look for jobs. Um, the biggest dynamic switch, I would say, is that candidates are used to being wanted more,
Mhm.
or allowances made more for them. Flexibility around interviews, technical skill set, personality fit. And when the market suddenly became oversaturated, hiring managers naturally start to become more particular about what they're looking for.
Yeah.
So I would say the last couple of weeks have been tough for some individuals, getting rejected for reasons they would consider to be really minute, with the minor technical differences in their
Yeah.
experience and things like that. Also, the length of interview processes has elongated, I would say, the last couple of weeks, just because there's been so
Definitely.
many more interviews
It's
going.
interesting actually because everyone keeps saying like privately, "Oh, you must have done really well at that. Oh, you was great. You got 200 more." But it didn't create 200 more jobs, did it? Let's be
No,
honest. It didn't create any more in the market, except for a few people who did start to look at like contract and bringing people on for short term, that kind of thing. So actually, what it did was like you said, then not saturate the market. It's probably a bit strong, but at the same time, there became a lot more options. So people that are in the process already, maybe that slowed down their process. And if we've been fortunate enough to work with some of those guys that lost their jobs and found them new roles, that was just replacing someone that didn't get the job. So, it's a tough market, right? If you were looking.
yeah. There were definitely a couple of lenders who I think were a bit more opportunistic with
Hmm.
coming out into the market.
This is wicked, by the way. Sorry to jump in, but that's really, really good because
Yeah,
everyone needs people when they need them, right? But we always say the same thing. We like it to food shopping when you're hungry. Like when you desperately need someone, you make bad decisions. So if you can see in the future, there needs to be people in your business, even if it's having a chat with people,
yeah,
that's the time to do it, right? When there's actually decent talent on the market, even if it's not the right timing, like timing's shit, it always is. You
yeah.
never find the right people at the right time. Remember when we spoke, when we first, when you were sort of looking at new roles, and I said to you, I'm going to need you in 6 months, and lo and behold, you were ready a week later. So, it's just like, as a business owner, you just stomach that, don't you? You want good people. If it's a few months before you're looking, or it doesn't quite fit with your plan, we have to
Yeah.
roll with it. You get great candidates, or you get great people in your business by rolling with it rather than sticking to it on your timeline.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of these hiring managers and businesses will have seen how talent short the market has been over the last few years. To right, be
Yeah,
opportunistic. I think also candidates have a much nicer experience when going through a process that's a bit more flexible.
yeah,
A role can be built around them, their experience, and what they're looking for,
yeah,
which is really cool to see. Definitely.
yeah, yeah. So talk to me about this. So we talk about it obviously in the office. So we were prepared that publicly, but the issue we have, as everyone knows, even though we said this market saturated, everyone still wants, we'll go down the BDM route, right? We'll start with that first. Everyone wants the guy, the girl with 10 years experience, also young, hungry, driven. It's very hard to be 22 with 10 years experience, but that's by the by. But everyone's fishing from the same pool, and we're big advocates of having a look outside that pool, right? I'm recruiting on NRG, weirdly enough, given it's our name. But tell me about your thoughts on that. Tell me about what you've seen in the market and what you've been really, actually, especially you've been really successful in the side of bringing people in who perhaps weren't exactly what people wanted at the beginning, but can really see the kind of the benefit in taking someone on character as opposed to experience.
Yeah, so I think that does also partially tie into the experiences that hiring managers have had over the past couple of years. I think this whole idea of being more flexible in what you're looking for has come out of, it's been birthed by years of a talent shortage.
Yeah.
So sometimes hiring managers are forced down that route. Sometimes equally they spend a lot of money, a lot of time on finding quote unquote the perfect person, and then they get banned because they really don't fit into their team. Obviously, a lot of what we do, an individual hire has such an impact on the business's culture. Sometimes that's a wake up call for hiring managers to see that, technical ability isn't the only thing at play. But I also think it's just about getting people in front of them. People, we all know in this industry, people buy from people. Personality is a big thing. There's a lot of areas of responsibility that can be taught, but personality, approach, grit, those things can't be taught.
And like you say, and the culture side of things is so important. You're culture driven. If you look at the successes you've had over the last couple of years when you're growing teams that maybe haven't had the experience, the culture driven recruitment has paid dividends. And we've literally seen that in businesses, haven't we, where you can teach, right, with the greatest respect, you can teach someone to do what we do. You can teach someone to sell, you can teach someone to do any part of the business really if they're willing, but actually to fit into your culture, to fit into your team and stop that revolving door, lack of retention side of things is a culture thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And we see it firsthand, don't we, all the time, that what one bad person can do to an entire team. A team that you've spent a very long time trying to build and will be extremely hard to replace. So it's really cool to see that hiring managers are recognizing that and being a lot more flexible in their approach to that.
Obviously, we're going to be biased on this, right? But the difference between doing that and not doing that is having a genuine recruitment partner, in my opinion, because no one's going to take my opinion if I'm one of seven. If there's 5 people chucking over CVs left, right, and centre, and I'm sat there going, look, I'm going to wait for the dust to settle because I don't believe this is right for you. It's really hard to get your voice across, isn't it? So the benefit of working, and again, of course, we're always going to say this, right? Because we're paid for it, but it's so true. The difference between using us and the CV sifter is massive when you look at the successes you've had over the last couple of years compared to just chucking as much CVs at the wall as possible, putting it in the nicest possible way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's exactly the same as our lender partners are with their brokers. You want a partnership, you want to be trusted. And when a hiring manager feels like they can really let go and trust us and just see the people we want them to see, we hope 99 out of 100, they would say, at least they were worth my time seeing, or I understand why I'm seeing them.
Yeah, even if, again, not everyone's going to take our opinion on for everything. We don't know everyone's business as well as they know it, but we've got a pretty good idea of how to grow a decent sales team, underwriting team, collections team, etc. But I think the most important thing, like you just said then, is actually once we get people in front of them, especially if they're not entirely sure, we can narrow down the search quite quickly.
Yeah.
Because if you're looking at culture, you're like, this is great, actually. I can really understand where this person fits, this person doesn't. But then we end up getting basically, I need those 3 people you sent me, I need that person.
Yeah.
Then at least we know then. I mean, that might be hen's teeth, as most are. Otherwise, we wouldn't get paid. But that's the benefit of seeing people, right? There's nothing wrong with having a coffee. As long as you manage expectations, this is what we're looking at, and you kind of.
Yeah, and we see it all the time that hiring managers, founders, CEOs, their opinion on what they need changes as they meet people, as they have these conversations. They start to understand perhaps something is less important than they thought, or something is more important than they thought.
Yeah.
And
that also means we've got to be open to you bringing suggestions as well.
Yeah.
If they're so adamant on this is what we need, then we see all the time. We're speaking to someone at the moment with the same thing. They were so desperate for bums on seats. We were saying, please don't do it. Please wait. And they didn't wait. And now we're starting the process from scratch for them. But it sounds arrogant when we do it, but we've done it with so many businesses. You know what I mean? Like you see the mistakes and you kind of want to help. Like if we were a non-exec director to someone like you are a partner, you would listen. But because we're kind of external to people, they tend to, all the good ones listen. I think is the important thing.
Yeah, well, it's another part of our mission, isn't it, to change the opinion of recruiters and what they do.
Yeah, if I worked for EY and said I was a growth consultant specialising in people management, you'd go, "Oh, okay, cool. I'll pay you $100,000 and I'll listen." But I'm a recruiter, but I'm doing the same job. I just worded it different. But I also think, like, I get it. Like we talked about this before, that the bar in recruitment has been so low that it is on us to try and change the opinions of people. We get it. They worked with cheaper people. They've worked with much worse people. They've worked with people that have a have a very different value set to what we do. So I do understand this as well, right? If you've got a finite pot of money to bring someone in, they're kind of adamant as to what they want. But those that listen, those that actually join in as the partnership, they do flourish.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's sometimes hard to believe at face value, I think, for some people, but if we were to take all of our morals and all of our personality out of it, is it commercially astute to screw over our clients or to place people in the stay? So it's
not short. That's the reason recruitment has a bad name as well, because short-term money is very easy to make. Because we could do that. I think we could not stand by our values. We could say, look, just say this and you'll get in. We can make a CV look good. But long term, if you look at our retention in ours, we've given 5 callbacks back in 15 years. That's testament to what we do. I also look at people doing a shit recruitment process and think, well, they're still making money. I'm just being honest. There's still people in the market making money when they're not maybe as follow our values. But right, I'll drag that out forever. Talk to me about getting young people into it. Obviously, I know you are involved in the young people and bridging side of things as well, and I think that's really useful for people, getting those guys who are the next generation of decision makers. But how do we, as the old folk, speaking to you as the next generation, what are we doing right, what are we doing wrong, and what do we need to think about when we're getting people into this market?
I think what's right is everyone who we work with and most people in this industry teach and hold everyone that reports into them in extremely high regard. Everyone is trusted very quickly, but everyone has a job to do. Don't play fools in the industry, which I think works really well. That old school mentality of having quite a harsh mentor, I think, does work. I think
are you saying you've had a harsh mentor? Let's go.
Not at all. But the idea of having standards in place, not allowing too much to be walked on eggshells around is really important. I think anyone that's interested in this industry is already probably going to be relatively thick-skinned, relatively kind of commercially switched on.
You think people know before they come in, especially like the next? Because I do think, this is going to sound like an old man, I do think we were thicker skinned, but we had worse managers as well. We had harsher. You don't lose your chair in this industry for not in deals. Well, I mean, when I started, that's how it was. So I do think we were built a little bit thicker skin. So I think we also have to take that into consideration. But also, I'm not saying that's good leadership either. Leadership's changed for the better, which means maybe people aren't as resilient. But
I think it's really case dependent. I think in a sales environment, it's good to have someone who leads by example, but equally, you have to think back to the beginning of your journey, when you were a 18, 19-year-old salesperson, didn't know what you were doing. I think probably the main difference is we've been brought up in an era of sometimes being scared to pick up the phone, being scared to get out on the road and see people. But the general feel I get from young people wanting to step into this industry is not just this, but watch Wolf of Wall Street, or they've watched American Psycho and they like that idea, and
it is cool once you're in it. I don't know how cool it looks from the outside.
No, I think everyone that works in this industry has fallen into financial services. I don't think it necessarily happens on purpose, but I think getting into commercial real estate is a targeted choice. And if you've fallen into it by accident, you're very lucky, because it's an industry that people sometimes have to work. Well, everyone has to work very hard to get into. But that's what I would say is going right. I think from a young person's point of view, we see it so often. People recruit you or have conversations with you because they like you, they see you, you're visible, you go to networking events and you shake people's hands just for the sake of being there. You're curious, you want to learn, you're interested in people's businesses, and especially in those entrepreneurial, smaller founder or CEO led businesses, being interested in that founder's business is a great compliment.
The curious side of things is not changed, right? The most curious people are the best, especially they become the best leaders, I think, because they are naturally inquisitive as to how something happens or how do you get there or what can I do to be better. I think that hasn't been lost in that's not a generational thing. I think that's the best people are naturally curious.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the area that I think hiring managers are struggling with that has changed in our generation is uncomfortable questions are asked a lot sooner. Can I work from home? What does the benefit?
I think the difference is, and Lewis actually alluded to this morning when we were talking, older interviewers don't understand it's a two-way street.
Yeah, 100%.
And that's changed a lot. Like I would never, when I was going into a job interview, like start questioning them on like, okay, cool, that's your vision. Where do I sit in it? And these are perfectly reasonable questions, by the way. Where do I sit in your vision is a great, shows that you care. But it just wouldn't have happened when I first started interviewing. It was like they were grilling me. I would have to work out how to sell the pen and if I was 3 inches tall, how to get out of the food blender and that shit. So at what point would you think that that you would go right, turn it back on them?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing to say is, I would consider myself still a young person in this industry. It would take a lot of confidence for me to ask that. So I think it's not always looking at someone and assuming that they're particularly cocky or
thankful or anything.
It takes a great deal of confidence to ask those kinds of questions, and also it shows confidence that they want to invest and stay in the business.
And that is a big driver difference as well. To jump in, the generational thing is that we wanted to earn lots of money. That was kind of you, and you're up against your peers who also wanted to earn a lot of money, and that's still a lot of the case. But it's a much more, I think, the vision of businesses now, or the journey, or where you sit in it, and the story behind a business is much more influential now to people's decision making than maybe when I was first going into sales. You just wanted to know how much money can I make, what's the commission structure, wallet, when can I get on the phone? Whereas now people have different drivers now, don't they?
Yeah, and this is probably the biggest. Am I going to get it wrong? Is it? I think I'm Gen Z, and the generation below me is Gen X. Is that right?
I don't know what the generations are.
The generation below me, and probably part of my generation as well, is we're in this shock factor. Everything's happening. There's wars. There's all of this different stuff that's going on that we live through. You start to understand, or the approach is life is too short, so you have to be happy in your job.
That's so true. Sorry to say that, like we would stay in a job unhappy because we had good money. That doesn't happen.
No,
you look at the average tenure of a job within the last 10 years has changed by something like 5 years. Like the average tenure is now 2.4, and it used to be over 6.
Because it's really important for the younger generations.
And so talk about this, about the happiness side of things. What do hiring managers need to think about? By the way, I'm gonna jump in the middle of it. Actually, no, I'm gonna do it at the end. I was just gonna say about you've got a hiring manager webinar coming up, haven't you? But we'll big up at the end. But what do hiring managers have to think about when you're saying like the happiness side of things? You can't just say to someone they're going to be happy. Like what do we have to think about as hiring managers when it comes to the fact that people are driven by wanting to stay happy now? What do you think is important?
Good question. I think there's a lot. Initially there's an air about someone, the way they hold an interview, their approach to like line of questioning. But one big thing I see is a consistent message through the business. Something that we sometimes have issues with at multiple stages of interviews is there's an inconsistent message, an inconsistent mission or values through the business. And because that is such a large focus of these generations,
Yeah, Chris
Sometimes
Lock.
feel uncomfortable or a little bit suspicious,
Yeah.
which direction we actually headed.
Yeah, I
So
mean, they've got to be interested as well, right? Like, you can't go into you need well, again, I'll talk about being the old man, but going into interviews where people would be like 40 minutes late and they just come in, no apology, just bang, sit down, start grilling you. Uh, that that can't happen nowadays. That's just very different. The journey starts from the second they apply,
yeah,
which is obviously what's down to us as well, right? As a recruitment partner,
yeah,
we're a reflection of those in the industry. But
100%.
the journey starts from when someone applies now, as opposed to like the day they get the job. You can't say I'm going to be nice to you when you get the job. You're being checked all every stage along the way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's I mean, yeah, I talk about it a little bit in my webinar, but it's the what we see now is less people not getting offered and
Yeah,
more offers being rejected because the journey has not been positive for them.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I mean, ultimately,
Talk me through this then. What makes a positive journey from the beginning? For again, I don't want to ruin your hiring
oh no,
webinar.
it's fine. No, it's
What
fine.
what makes a positive journey for candidates from beginning to end?
I would say the easiest way to explain that is what would a positive journey look like to your broker?
Yeah,
You know, you need to be swift, accessible, you need to be clear, and you don't want to be played a fool. You know, if things like salary discussions have already happened, not lowballing is an obvious
yeah,
one.
yeah,
Discussions around packages or around their journey in the business.
yeah.
You know, another one of the biggest reasons that we're moving people at the moment, other than them not being happy, is they're not being given what they were promised in terms of progression.
I honestly think that's number one. If I look at the last 15 years, the number one people we move, the number one reason we move people who have not been in a job that long is because what they said at the beginning they haven't delivered, not that the company haven't delivered on. I
Yeah,
honestly think that's number one, which is nuts because you overpromise, and I do get it. Like, you want to get someone in your business, don't you? So you kind of have to say, with great business, but at the same time, you have to deliver.
yeah.
If they're delivering, you have to. It works. Again, it's two-way street.
Yeah. And the way I would try and, although I know it's frustrating in the moment, the way I would try and um, spin that to a hiring manager is this person obviously holds themselves in a really high regard. This is how they're going to treat their potential employees when they're hiring for your business.
Yeah,
And so the candidate journey would naturally be a lot better,
yeah.
which hopefully means they keep hold of their staff longer, assuming they go in that direction.
That is the matter, and I talked about this in another podcast recently. And I know, like, we wouldn't get paid if everyone retained every person they ever have, but there's going to be natural progression. There's also shit companies,
Yeah.
but the importance of retention genuinely starts from how you treat people from the beginning of the interview, doesn't it? It makes such a difference. If you start treating people like a number, then that's how you'll be treated.
Yeah.
People won't give a shit about it. Like, I think there are people that will stay in jobs where they can get a higher paid job somewhere else because they love the job. And we say that to people as well, to be fair. If they come to us and say, I really love my job. I really love the hiring manager. I really love my leaders. I just think I'm underpaid. First thing I say is go and ask for a pay rise. Like, it sounds like your job's brilliant. Just go and get a pay rise.
Yeah.
If you can't, then it's a value problem.
Yeah.
You're not valued in that business as much as you think you are.
Yeah.
But God, you don't move if you've got a good job, a good hiring manager, great leaders, happy with your job, and you're just not being paid enough. Don't move. Like, stay, get more money. Like,
Yeah.
you at least ask the question. But
Yeah.
people at the moment, again, generational thing, I think would leave it because they're not used to the uncomfortable conversations, that they would probably leave a job rather than ask for more money. So we're always doing, we genuinely do that, don't we? We say to them, like, just go and ask for more.
Yeah.
You're on a good thing.
Yeah, and most of the time, when people don't leave if they've been offered another job, it's because they've been counter offered. Like you could have removed this whole process and not burn
Yeah,
any bridges and not be uncomfortable with your hiring manager knowing that you were looking.
you were looking. Yeah,
Just
yeah,
ask the question.
yeah,
But like going back to the candidate journey, and to recruitment part, it starts from the minute that a CV lands with an agency that you decide to engage with.
yeah.
We know plenty of candidates who work exclusively with us because they've had such bad experiences with other agencies before. And I'm sure there are, those out there who have their opinions on everyone.
Yeah, yeah. You can't be all things to all people, can you? I'm sure there's people out there that have asked, but I like to think, given the 2 bad Google reviews and the hundreds of good ones, that we're doing the right ones. And actually, we did one of those 2 people on the 0 Google reviews. Never heard of them. And fuck these.
But it really does, but like ultimately we are the middleman. We're the ones that have to pass the feedback. We're the ones that have to give the quick responses when applications are made. We're the ones that arrange the interviews. If you're working with an agency that don't respect your time, don't prioritize your time or the candidate's time, naturally that process is going to break down.
Again, it's a two-way street to your recruitment partner as well, right? It's that if you're not quick to get back to them, and they can't be quick to get back to someone else. Like the whole journey revolves on that partnership looking good.
Yeah.
Because that's how good you look to the outside world. The way we represent you and the way you represent yourself during the whole journey is you as a business. It doesn't matter how good you think you are. Perception is everything. And if you are not perceived as someone that gives a shit, that's how you'll come across. I think you probably aren't.
Yeah, and we work with loads of, I keep saying it, we work with loads of founder-led agencies, founder-led businesses, where obviously they naturally believe that they are the best in the market because that's the vision that they've made. That otherwise they wouldn't be doing it. But it is absolutely pointless if people think you're slow to respond, you're not a respectable employer. There is more to life than working for someone who has the best products.
And it's pictures as well, isn't it? Like everyone can say they're the best. Oh, people love working there. But have you asked everyone? If you've actually achieved? But in my head, I honestly think no. Why would anyone leave? Because I think you buy into what we're trying to build and that kind of thing. But unless you get feedback, unless you actually follow up on your actions, unless you lead, then it's just like you said, just words. Like actions are so important. How they act is everything. Everyone can say they're a great employer. Everyone can say that they care about their staff. But if you're not turning up to interviews, if you don't give a shit, if you're taking 3 weeks to get back to people, that's genuinely how you treat people, not how you say you do.
And it's like everyone saying they're fast growing, agile.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, we do quick bridging. Cool.
You become numb to it. Candidates will become numb to it.
Yeah, but you see the ones that we speak to guys who genuinely do say fast bridging. I know that's bullshit because when they do it and you hear brokers going, that was really quick, that was really quick, that was like cool. Your actions are actually what you're saying you are, because everyone's quick, right? Everyone cares. Everyone says they care about the customer. Everyone says they can deliver. It's full bullshit until you follow it up.
Show your metal.
And again, that's the same as your product. It's the same as how you treat your clients. It's the same as how you treat your candidates on the recruitment journey.
Yeah, 100%. It's all of this. It revolves around the candidate journey because the generation that you're looking to hire care about themselves more than the business they work for most of the time.
And they're not just money driven. It's they're driven by something very different. And again, the hiring managers are my age, so like I have these conversations and I think I get it, right?
Yeah,
I do. What I mean is that I get it, but it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant that we can all get together and bitch about how hard it is because we can't get people to understand what we want. Because we're the fucking dinosaurs now, right? We have to change because you cannot just keep hiring people your age. Hence the reason the average age of BDMs is over 50 now.
Yeah.
Because there's a big fucking gap in the middle because we couldn't quite get our heads around what the next generation wanted.
Yeah. And, I think it's very easy, even from my perspective, speaking to some of these candidates, it's very easy to think that they're just a difficult customer. They're just being pedantic for the sake of it. But like I said earlier, you really have to look at how fervently they're going to represent your business. If they're this concerned about the process, the journey, the vision, the message.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great, isn't it? I think so. It's like someone that overthinks the interview process and they're going into development finance. Amazing. You're analytical. Fantastic. You can see that. If you're like blasé about the whole thing and just an emotional thing, especially dev or along those, but anything that's analytical, whether that be credit or even like an analysis type role, if you are following a process like that, that's probably how you're going to act in a business. Again, it's actions rather than words, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you if you're looking for a BDM who does more than walks donuts off, having that curiosity and those boundaries is it's really cool to see. In the moment, you can either let your ego get the better of you and think, this guy is just wasting my time, or whatever. You could be losing out on a really good candidate.
Good candidates are a bit of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, they are naturally. Yeah,
they are, because they want more, because they're good and they want to know more. They want to know more about your business. They're not just going to jump at the first thing because you offer them $5,000 more. They're a little bit more of a pain in the ass. I'd be more concerned with more red flags about someone that jumps at everything you say. Because they have to. Again, it's a red flag, isn't it? They're not, and I might be completely wrong. They might be just fantastic, and you've hit the nail on the head first time. But the problematic candidates aren't always. They're problematic for the right reasons.
Yeah. If they've got
ask you the right questions,
Yeah, and we can pick that up on a phone call quite quickly, can't we?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, don't forget, we've already deleted 90% of the people that are even interested in that job.
Yeah.
I think this is funny when I had this conversation with someone on Friday when I was driving back from Manchester, and they were saying like, look, we know we've tried it ourselves, like it's hard, it's just crap. And I said, by the way, you don't pay me for those 2 CVs that I send you. You pay me for the 98 people I've had to tell to fuck off. Like it is in a nice way. I've never told someone for an application, but do you know what I mean? Like there's so much more in the process of us, and I think that's probably again down to us not explaining the recruitment journey for people as well as we should. It's not the person we sent you. It's not the 3 people we sent you. It's the 97 that we've had to explain why they're not quite right for it. And there is jobs out there for everyone. This is not the ones that people are paying us for to get the best of the best. So it's a tough process, but that's why we get paid, right?
And the stuff that if you were to sit down and ask any random person on the street what a recruiter does, they'd say, well, you look at CVs and you match people to jobs. Yeah. What our clients would hopefully say, or what they'd see from the fee that we charge or the money that we make, is the 9-10 o'clock nights sitting on the phone with a candidate who's got loads of concerns or is sick and worried about handing their notice in, calls with clients early in the morning or late at night, spitballing ideas on how to shape the role or how to change the recruitment process. There's so
enough to challenge it as well. Yeah. I think for cheaper than us, you can get someone to chuck 5 CVs at you. When you can post an advert, just so people know, 8% of our placements last year came from adverts. So by all means, if you want to be in that 8% mark, chuck an advert on. And then even those are probably touch points that we spoke to before. Yeah. You look at 8%, but it's a very low margin. You kind of know who's applying and that kind of thing. You occasionally get lucky, as we have 8% of the time.
Yeah.
But if that's we deal with a number of different roles. It's very hard to get lucky as one company.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a huge process behind every vacancy that's not just looking and scrolling through that.
We should do that actually. Maybe we should actually go through like the process we do. Because I spoke to BDM the other day and he said your job must be so easy because you find a BDM. And you find a BDM, and like we've got a BDM here. He actually worked at HTB, and he goes, "Just go HTB CV." I said, "But those that work at HTB couldn't work at XYZ. Or those that work at here can't work there. You culturally, that person doesn't work. Like some people need donut droppers. Some people need technically gifted credit paper writers. Some people need, so it's not just cool BDM. I mean, a lot of recruiters do that, and then wonder why they get maybe 1 in 10 CVs get looked at, and that's when the process does get spoiled by maybe not as skilled recruiters as we are, and that's not just us. We're good at what we do. There's a reason why we are where we are. But it's learning the culture. It's learning how people want to work. It's learning how they want to be managed. It's learning all the different parts of a business that you go, do you know what, that guy, even if you're not actively looking, this guy is fucking unreal for you. Just please have a look at his video. And that's how we make way more than our 8% adverts than we do on specking out a video because we met someone who's fantastic.
Yeah. And, I think there are some companies out there, ones that we don't work with, that probably quantify how valuable their recruitment partner is based on the amount of CVs that they send, as opposed to the actual conversions.
You said 20 CVs. I'm like, that's not how it works.
I've said it many times to clients and candidates, and it was that easy. We'd be speaking to each other from the Bahamas. We wouldn't be in Southampton.
I always say that. Yeah, if we had that 20-year-old with 10 years experience, I'd be retired.
So it's, everyone has different expectations, but the reason everyone's expectations are so different is because the bar is so low in recruitment, and because everyone runs such different processes. Now it's good to have an eclectic mix in the market, because there are businesses out there that we can't service. They don't.
Yeah, without people would never be good.
Yes. And there are some people that wouldn't get the value that we try to add, just based on what they need, how quickly they need.
Some people don't need us. If you need donut droppers and you'll take every CV you look at them, you don't need us.
Yeah, you might don't need any, really, do you? We're consultants, we're not recruiters.
Either way, they will need us eventually. I'm so calm about that journey when people say, I say to Fortune not using you or whatever, because they don't understand the journey. And I would just think, like, I've been doing this so long, you don't understand what you need yet. You think you save money and you actually cost yourself a fortune in the long run. But all this grey hair comes from, and the bald head comes from being slightly more chilled out now, going, do you know what? It's just part of the journey. Yeah. They don't fully understand what we do, which is fine. They genuinely think it's the front end
Yeah.
cost rather than the back end of how much you save retention was. I'd love to get those figures on how much we save people in retention.
Yeah.
Considering how good our clawback is, it'd be incredible. But again, it's just worth people don't know, do they? Because they see the upfront cost, and you can't explain to everyone. You can't be all things to all people.
Yeah, but I think in our, it's a shame to see it in our industry where it's so service led. You know, you'd expect that people would feel the same way in my
Yeah. Especially like for me with brokers, like we're all middlemen.
Yeah.
And then they can't see the value in the middleman. I'm like, come on, man. No one none of us are lending money out of our own pocket.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we're all middlemen. We're all just a product. We're a product. Unless you're working at, unless you're the private equity end or the funder of a funder. We're all middlemen. So we're so relationship management led. But then you look at someone else's and go, that's just expensive.
Yeah. 100%. But the idea of us is we work with a small referral network that we are confident in, and they are confident in us, and ticks along nicely, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, doing all right so far. So this is the longest webinar I've done for ages. We just talk about ourselves, but not a webinar, podcast. But I want to talk to you about your webinar. So you've got a webinar coming out soon. Tell me what that's about, how it's helping people, what you're doing. What value are you adding to the industry, even more than just exceptional recruitment skills?
I'm bestowing my knowledge. I'm doing so this is webinar 1 of probably 4 or 5. This one is focused on the candidate journey. So in a lot more detail, how to prepare for a vacancy, how to sell a company mission in an interview, how to follow up with the candidate, basically how to run the process end to end, reflecting what we do in our business. So a bit of an insight into how we work day to day and why we're so much better.
Amazing. When's that out? Just so I can bug you about it and say why isn't that running?
It should be, assuming I can sort out my technical issues. Probably next week or the week after.
Amazing. Well, I don't know when this is going to go out yet, so that'd be relevant to people, but good. Good stuff. I appreciate your time, as always, even though you're in that office next door. But I do think it's important. I do think it's important that we talk to people and tell people about what we actually do for a living, right? Because people don't know. And hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into what we do and how seriously we take it and how much we care about it. But thank you very much, Kallie. I had to look down at your name and said Marcus on it.
Thanks, Marcus.
Thanks, Kallie. I work with every day. And thank you everyone listening and watching. I really appreciate it. But it's another episode of NRG Insights. And once again, Kallie, appreciate your time.
Thanks, Marcus.
Cheers.